Okay, so just to let you know that this is a recorded session, and yeah. So I think just to say once again, welcome. I hope it's been an engaging session so far, and you've taken benefit in terms of what's been provided. And maybe just to look at your week in perspective, and just to probably note down some of the things that you found were useful during this last week for you. And I think it's a very useful thing to do. And like I mentioned to you last week, maybe a little notebook just to keep some tabs in where you are and as you go along in this anger process. And then also just to realize that you the laboratory, you the experiment, you the laboratory, and you're actually the one who assesses your progress on this journey in terms of overcoming anger. So I think I'm going to just slip into the slides, and maybe we can talk from there as we go along. So yeah, we actually on our anger's second session of the anger management. And like I said, last week we looked at the erupting volcano and the image of anger being a volcano. And in a volcano, you probably have an aspect that you see very conspicuously bursting through the ground, but actually below the surface, there's lots happening to a volcano. And so last week, I think we looked a lot at the stuff that happens above the surface. And this week, we're going to go a little bit beneath that surface and look at what happens a little bit below the surface in terms of anger. So we looked at the anger process, we looked at behavior changes, and this week we're looking a little bit beneath the surface, and we're looking at the power of thought and how can thought help us create and resolve anger. And then we look a little bit about the subconscious and the areas that impact on us in terms of anger. And then in session 3, we go a little bit deeper into the depths of the volcano, and we explore the spiritual aspects to it. So once again, welcome. I hope you are finding this engaging. Sometimes maybe not all that enjoyable, but certainly if you feel engaged, I think that's the process you want to have. Sometimes these things are not always the easiest things to deal with, especially something as strong as anger can be, and sometimes subtle, and sometimes something that's just a little sneaky and keep missing the mark with. So yeah, I think it's just to stay the course and become your own director in terms of where and what you would like to be. Then we explore the relaxation exercises in terms of breathing, concentrating. And I think just in terms of a review of last week. So for now, I think we will start with a little bit of a relaxation section. So you just want to let go of everything you're holding on to, and just let it be, and just take a seat. And as you take a seat and become comfortable in that seat, I'd like you just to pay attention and become aware of your breathing. Breathe in and just feel the good energy entering this body. And let the breath go deep into the lungs. And exhale. breathe in and breathe out. And as you become aware of your breathing, you feel the relaxed state entering this body. And notice how everything around this body or inside this body feels calm. Breathing in and exhale gently. Feel balanced, feeling relaxed, feeling calm. And as I look at this image of the ocean, I'm reminded of the ocean of my mind, that space inside me where emotions, feelings, thoughts just glide around. As I feel myself entering that space, I start to see my ocean, my inner ocean, just becoming calm, beyond questions, just relaxed. And I'm able to feel absolute relaxed state. That beautiful mind. I am at peace. For a few seconds, I just hold that experience. Once again, I become aware of the breath. I become more aware of my circumstances and situations. But there's a feeling of peace. Thank you. Yeah, so once again, just looking at the last week perspective, and just an overview of last week, using the breathing, relaxing, visualizing exercises, and looking at definition of anger as one in which I feel my peace is traded by myself for an agitated space. And
Brother, sorry to
yes, so
interrupt. Sorry. I don't know why
yes,
this
I
is
can hear
echoing.
you.
There were some complaints. Meditation was very broken, the sound. So maybe you could do something your side when you meditate again, please.
Will do.
It was very
Thank
broken.
You.
Thank you,
Okay.
brother.
Thanks. Sorry about that. So once again, just to look at the definition is an experience where I lose my peace. And some very important aspects is to understand that I'm very consciously giving away my peace in that process. And so part of this anger management course is really looking at the areas of acceptance of responsibility and then very consciously transforming that. becoming aware of my rights, becoming aware of how I can influence my own inner state, and taking charge of it. So while there may be the experience of having triggers or situations or circumstances or people associated with my anger, however, I cannot influence and I cannot change the external, or my level of influence on the external is very limited. But the one thing and the one person I can help to empower is myself. And so looking at how I can do something different to transform and bring a more peaceful experience in my interactions. And then we saw the gifts and the price of anger, the mental experience, the body experience, and even the relationship and the atmosphere experience is that when there's anger, there's a great loss. And that loss is amplified the more the anger is experienced, and sometimes to the extent where it becomes difficult to manage other situations, circumstances, and even my own emotions. And we spoke about the anger process, where there's a trigger, and then I go through the experience of the agitation that I experience internally in the mind, within the body, and then obviously the explosions that happen inside and outside in terms of my emotions, my mental state, and even the body. And so the homework was very much about creating relaxation spaces or times where firstly the body is relaxed, then I'm able to calm my mind and mentally observe space. And at that point, I started to use the behavior changes for myself.
Sorry, brother. The sound
Yes.
is very poor. The sound is poor.
Okay.
In the chat, the sound is poor.
Okay. Sorry. I'm just gonna try and up the sound a little. I'm not sure if that's helping you, Sister Carol. Are you able to hear me well?
It helps now, but then it disappears. It like now it's okay. I think you must speak. If you could speak closer to the microphone.
Will do. Will do.
Thank you, brother.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I think last week we left off with a little bit of an exercise. And the question this week, maybe to start off, is has the management of your anger changed, or has there been a positive influence in terms of the changes you experienced? So maybe just if you want to share via the chat, was it successful? Was it good? And did you have any positive experiences? Maybe if one or two of you want to share before we continue today. Is there anybody who'd like to maybe share an experience or just to provide some feedback? Sister Carol, you can probably just check if somebody wants to raise their hand, and maybe you can facilitate them unmuting. Is there anybody who'd like to share any experience?
Brother, sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I noticed that when I did get angry, it was the last station on the train line. I was already angry before that, before it manifested. It was just waiting to be triggered. That's what I picked up about myself. So when I did get angry, it didn't matter what the situation was. I was already angry about something else, but it just got triggered in when there was an opportunity. That's what I noticed.
Okay, and so what is the positive coming out of the experiences for yourself?
That I observed myself, and then that I know I must sort things out before I see people.
Okay, great.
And breathe and breathe. When I get out of the car to go into a house, breathe.
Okay. So if I hear you, Sister Carol, what you're sharing is that the experience of anger was already there. It's just that it was waiting for a trigger for you to burst out. And if anything, your observer status allowed you to become the influence of whatever would happen in the future. Is that a good summary?
That's very good. That's very accurate.
Okay, great. Anybody else would like to share? Okay, so if there's no one, that's great.
What I want to say is the people who are closest to you make you the most angry. Your family.
They're the best triggers, yeah. And I think the experience or the understanding to be taken from that is that you know, people have got to know you, and they may be prompting the experience or agitating for you to have the experience, but it's not necessarily that they are nasty or it's just that you're priming yourself for that experience. And as you become an observer to these aspects, you can influence it and you can change it. And it's not someone, it's me. So I got one feedback here. I used the exercise of breathing when I got angry with someone in traffic. In traffic, I ignored the perpetrator without responding and calmed down within a short while. So that's great, good feedback. I think that lessens the chances of an accident. And remember that with anger, the chances of you controlling or the decision-making process is actually compromised. So you don't want to be in that situation, especially in something like traffic, where any number of things can happen. So great, thank you for that. Thank you for the show.
I also want to share my experience. Do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay,
Please go ahead.
I have been trying to manage anger for a long time. And well, I have given some good, I have some achievements, and I have realized that when I maintain myself very quiet, I feel much more powerful later, not only because in an external way, but also in an internal way. I feel, oh, I was able to do it. I didn't, I was able, definitely,
right.
And that make me feel that I can do it, even if it's not so easy, because as someone told before, when you have the the trigger persons within your most near the nearest persons, then well, it's not easy really, but when you got it, you said, oh great. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for that. And what I think I'm hearing from the sister is that it's not an easy process, but when you give yourself the chance, you start to develop a confidence inside yourself about how you can overcome. And I think that's very important, because a lot of the time the battle is lost when I'm starting on the back foot. I'm not giving myself, it's like I'm starting off with the handbrake on. I'm never going to reach full speed in terms of my effort. So the more I develop the confidence in the self, and it's not about anybody else or anything, it's the confidence in just you knowing that you can overcome this extreme emotion of anger. And it's small things that need to happen, and the small things roll forward and become bigger, and the confidence grows, and the feeling that it's not them, but actually it's something that I can influence and I can help myself overcome. And a very big important aspect is that those that are close to you will trigger you many times, and they don't even know it. And yet you may have a narrative inside you that's saying, well, they always do this. They must know they did this. It's actually just you. And once you are able to to put a full stop, and it's a very important to be able to put a full stop, then the new sentence can be write the
Your
script.
signal,
in
I
terms of
think it's your
I
signal.
think the aspect of developing confidence when you give yourself a chance is such an important. So we're going to move on from there. Thank you for all the feedback. It's really, unfortunately, I think it's, and I apologize for that, but so far there's nothing further that's I can see is that's wrong with the. It's probably just intermittently, and I do apologize for that.
Yes.
If anything, maybe I'm testing your anger today a little bit, or maybe technology is testing the anger process a bit. So do bear with me with regards to that. It's not something that we're consciously doing. But if you do break, use that as few moments of silence just to breathe, relax, and I'm sure whatever you need, you will gain as we go along with this. So apologies for that. So I'm going to continue.
Brother, sorry, can you repeat from the point you were telling us when you are able to put a final dot? Because in that point, the sound went off.
Okay, so with regards to being able to apply a full stop, meaning that whatever the narrative that I have about other people and their influence in terms of my anger process, when you're able to put a full stop, meaning just becoming silent, just not allowing anybody else onto the space of my mind, then it gives you the opportunity to write your own narrative. That means you can start writing about yourself, and you can start putting a narrative into the mind that is something that you influence, rather than it being speculation and so on. So please, if anything, many things will come to test us. I mean, maybe this whole experience with technology is our first test. So you're getting a practical today, and it's not something that I set up in any way. Sorry about that.
There's a suggestion in the chat, brother, about switching off your video to improve the signal.
Will do. We'll take that. Will do. All right, so I'm going to go straight to the presentation. So the aim today is just to look at our thoughts and see how our thoughts plays a part in the anger process, and some tools to create a positive change, and then just to look at the conscious mind and the intellect and how do they work together in creating positive and negative behavior. So today we look to cover a little bit about that. So from last week, the anger process, obviously, the anger cycles, looking at triggers coming from the outside, whether it's someone, something, situation, circumstance, information, any number of things. Sometimes it's my own body. I might have ill health. Sometimes it's my mental. All of these things can be triggers, even to the extent that it's my own personality. Sometimes that's a trigger. When I say that, let's just say sometimes you're a person that you're not always positive, and then when you suddenly look at a situation, says, well, my sense of being negative is what makes me feel more depressed, brings disappointments, and when situations don't work in my favor, then I feel more angry, or I feel more disappointed. I feel a sense of becoming like a victim in terms of my experience. And so even your own mind can become a trigger. And so that then filters into my thoughts, and that then triggers into words and actions. And sometimes it's the words that are happening internally and not necessarily externally. And that's telling me that there's mental chatter that's happening. And sometimes that can be very draining, and obviously it then creates a downward trend in terms of my own experience, my own body, my own health. And sometimes you just feel lethargic and tired. So you can see the experience of anger, not just on a very external space, but on an internal space. And there isn't the experience of peaceful feelings and happy thoughts inside them. And so what happens, those angry words and actions then filter through to the memories and in the impressions of anger that is created. And sometimes you may say, well, my anger helped me to overcome this, and then you feel all chuffed about it, and you want to then use that in different circumstances. And all that's happening is that it's deepening the experience of your anger. So the anger cycle, and something that I need to be so aware of and become aware of. So like you're looking at this image, I need to get to the point where I'm able to see all of these things in front of me in terms of my own experience, in my own mind, right? So that's the anger cycle. And today we're going to focus a little more on the aspects of thoughts and the impressions. So what is the thought? And well, we can look at it in terms of just describing it in different ways, but actually it's internal energy. And it's not energy that you can hold, touch, or feel in terms of physical contact, but definitely it has an impact on you. So when you have a good thought, it has an impression or an experience associated with that, or a feeling associated with that. And when you have a negative thought, it has its own feeling and experience associated with that. So just think about it for a second. I want you just to think, I am happy. I am happy. And just write down what is your feeling like. And now I want you to write down the feeling or the experience that comes from, I feel tired. I am tired. What is your experience? And so both these thoughts are energy that's flowing within. It's got nothing to do with the external, nothing that you can see, touch, or hold, but it has its own associated feelings. And so just to become aware that one can experience or feel the experience depending on the type of thoughts that I'm having. And so thoughts are energies within the mind, and it's usually creative energy, but at times we do have the tendency to move towards a more negative or destructive way of thinking. And so that then leads us to a downward spiral. So how are our thoughts shaped? And it comes from beliefs, values, or experiences as a foundation in terms of our life, the beliefs that we have, the values that we have, whether it's peace, love, sense of care, compassion, and the different experiences that you have in your life. They become, or they sort of become the experiences that shape our attitude and perceptions, the way I look at something, the way I feel about something, the way I project myself outside. And that then influences thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And so the thoughts are a product of our perceptions and attitudes that we develop. And so if we look at thoughts as just being seeds that are planted in the mind, then you got to ask yourself, what sort of seeds do you want to be planted in your mind? Is it good seeds productive seeds, healthy seeds, or do you want negative, draining type seeds that are planted? And when I say that, I'm speaking about the quality of thoughts, good quality thoughts. And maybe you just want to take a moment and write down what you would consider as good quality thoughts. And in the other end of the spectrum, what do you feel are negative thoughts for yourself? Just to check for yourself, what are your good quality thoughts that you keep for yourself and others? And what are the negative thoughts that you keep about yourself or others? And so you can see the associated differences in terms of what you keep as your thoughts. And remember, you know, our mind is a spring that is continuously filtering and feeding thoughts. It never stops. So as I'm speaking, there's different thoughts you're having. You know, even in your quiet moments, there are any number of thoughts that you can experience. And so this is energy that's flowing within yourself. So what sort of energy do I want to keep? And just a reminder that you create your thoughts. I create my thoughts. I'm responsible for my thoughts, meaning that I have to accept whatever thoughts or quality of thoughts I create. The benefits or whatever is derived from that as a product. I choose my thoughts. So quality. What sort of quality mechanism do I introduce in terms of filtering my thoughts? And no one can make you angry. So if I'm creating my thoughts, I'm responsible for my thoughts, and I choose my thoughts, then can someone else be responsible for my anger? Definitely not. Because you are the one that's responsible for that energy within your mind. And I think it's very important for us just to know that there are different types of thoughts. Some are very ordinary, like I'm stepping out to go to the shopping mall. I'm going to work. Those are just ordinary thoughts. They are just thoughts about the things you do in your life. They're ordinary. Then you have positive thoughts where they're empowering. They bring a sense of benefit and deep enthusiasm within the self. And the impact is such that they can transform this experience inside myself, can transform the atmosphere, can transform relationships, can just change perception and understanding of different things. So positive thoughts are those thoughts that are beneficial and enhance anything. Enhance the self, enhance the others, helps to enhance my environment. So those are positive thoughts. And then there's negative thoughts. And these are thoughts that have a draining energy. So they drain my own feelings, they drain my own behavior, they draw away from the experience of good relationships. I do not feel like I want to engage. I don't feel enthusiastic. This is where negative thoughts come in. They have a very draining experience. And then there's waste thoughts. And waste thoughts are really thoughts that I have that have no value, but what I just expressed. You know, thoughts about someone or something that really don't have any direct benefit to you, but you seem to entertain it. You know, this person did this, but actually you don't know the person. Or this is what happened, but actually it's of no consequence to you. So these are waste thoughts that I entertain myself. And what it does is that it's like the word suggests, waste. It just has the propensity to start to create the path to negativity. So it might not be negative, but it's creating the field for negativity to grow. So I just need to be very aware of the quality of my thoughts. Ordinary, it's necessary thoughts regarding things that you need to do or situations that are there. Positive is enhancing, brings something good, something more towards my own experience. Negative is draining, draining on the self, draining on others, draining in terms of the atmosphere. And waste is those thoughts that I really don't need to in any way entertain, but I find something sort of like engaging about it. And one way of describing it is it's like fried foods, very little nutritious value, but maybe very tasty. So when I look at my thoughts, let me always be aware of the quality of my thoughts. So where do I want to stay? And where do I want to experience my thoughts to be? So how do we develop positive thinking? Try and stay in the present. As much as the past or wanting to know what the future holds, now is the most important space. Where am I? What is the experience right here and now? Stay focused here and now. And this helps with best decision making. So, not I will be kind, but I am kind. This is who you are right here and now. Don't put off the experience. I am kind. Let your words be unqualified. Don't let there be that I am sometimes, and allow yourself the experience of I will try, maybe, it's possible. Accept it. I am caring. Be positive. Let it be beneficial to the self and others. So my thoughts need to be enhancing in my relationships. I let go and move on. So if something has happened, give it 2 seconds, understand it, and let it go. Don't give it more time than it deserves. Sometimes the experience I have with someone is such that it's of a second, but it plays in my mind on and on and on and on. And actually, the experience might be I did get hurt, and the hurt is of 30 seconds, or the pain is of 30 seconds, yet 30 years later, I'm still holding on to something. So you are actually, you may have, the understanding is really gone in that whole experience. A 30-second experience, 30 years later is still playing in my mind. That person may have hurt you for 1 minute, but you hurt yourself for 30 years. Be beneficial to yourself and others. Let go and move on. So let my thoughts be without any negatives. Never reinforce the negative. Reinforce the positive. I am calm with my friends, my mates, my family. Never say I'm not angry with my friends. I'm not angry with the situation. Reinforce the positive. Remove the negatives from my inner communication, my inner language, my inner experience, and then also on the external. So these are things to help us focus, be unqualified, ensure that my thoughts are beneficial to myself and others, and let go of the negative within my communication. Use positive. So this is what then enhances and brings positive thinking within the self. So how do I change thoughts? And the best way is through an internal influence, because when we look at thoughts, there's nothing physical about it. There's nothing tangible about it. It's not energy that I can see, touch, or hold. but yet it has a huge influence. You would know that if you got up one morning and you felt lazy, and that laziness started well inside, that I'm not feeling really that enthusiastic today, you would know the impact on the rest of your day. On the other hand, if you got up with a feeling, wow, I'm looking forward to today, you would know what the experience is. And so very much to look and see that thoughts which are inner energy, it's a subtle energy, has a huge influence in my life. And so if I want to influence thoughts, I need to become an observer to the screen of my mind. It's only at the point when I'm an observer that I can steer my thoughts in a positive direction. So we have what is called the SOS, meaning that I allow my inner world, I allow myself to step back in my inner world, become one that becomes the observer, and then I steer. SOS, stand back, observe, and steer. And so, how do I become this? And so, if we use the methods and the mechanisms that we started with, where I become aware and I relax myself, and when I allow my body to become relaxed, it then gives me the opportunity to access the mind and to determine the quality of thinking. When I'm able to see the quality of thoughts, as an observer, I can choose the thoughts that I would like on my mind. And I use that to steer myself into the direction that I want to. So very much the whole aspect that when I become detached from my thinking, it almost allows me the opportunity to look inside the self. And when I'm detached, then I can choose. That means I'm empowered to choose the quality of thought that I would like. And gently just to introduce it into my mind. So maybe just for a second, let's just try this once again. As you're seated, we're just going to do this little exercise. So I'd like you just to sit comfortably, be relaxed. Become aware of your breathing. Breathe in. Feel full. And exhale. Allow the self to become relaxed. While the body is relaxed, allow yourself just to enter your mind space. Become alert to the thoughts and feelings right now. But as an observer, I don't judge. Whatever is in my mind is perfect. I am just an observer of my thoughts, of my feelings, my emotions. And in the screen of my mind, I decide to choose. I choose one good quality, one enhancing quality and thought. I am peace. And I just feel this thought touching my mind. I am peace. And as that touches my mind, I start to feel ripples of peace just spreading in my mind. I am peace. I feel myself breathing deeply and exhaling gently while holding this feeling of peace. I stand back, observe, and steer. Stand back, observe, and steer my mind to peace. Thank you. So, very much allowing myself to become my own observer of my own thoughts, own feelings. And as an observer, I'm not judging. Whatever is there is there. It's accepting, not hiding, not doing anything else, but just observe. And within the self, there is one quality or another that you just need to choose and allow yourself to steer towards. And so, SOS, saving your own soul. And I think it's a wonderful way of actually giving regard to your own thoughts and allowing yourself to become one who is master of your thoughts. So I can change my thoughts through the internal influence. Okay, so when I'm able to, or allow myself to become one who's transforming my thoughts, then I move away from being one who's reactionary. And this whole idea that, reacting is like being a dog that chases a cat and gets run over by a car. It nearly always gives less than the best results. So this whole aspect that only in the space when I'm responding can there be positivity, can there be something more than where I was last. So when I choose to respond, it's actually the pausing is really the experience of empowered and feeling empowered, and then to choose the best and most positive response. And in that experience, when I'm responding as opposed to reacting, there's benefit for the self and others. The next thing that I'm able to do when I'm able to observe is I become aware of my expectations. And I think this is another area that's, very, very, or it's an area that crosses or is the source of a lot of our anger. Whether it's expectations of the world, my relationships with ourselves, sometimes these are charged, sort of wanting, almost changing the source of my responsibility from the self and placing it on others in a way. And when you do that, you are bound to feel short in the experience. So expectations happen when I take responsibility that I have and I place it onto something or someone else. And nobody's going to do it the way you would do it. And it's very important to understand that. And there's always going to be something short. And that little short is where I start to misfire and experience anger. Rather, I just have hope. Hope is a helpful and a more healthy experience, both for the mind and for others. So instead of expectations or the transfer of responsibility, rather let me keep my responsibility, but let me have hope that something good would come from whatever is happening. So don't trade the sense of responsibility for expectations on others. Another big area is perceptions and attitude. So my perceptions are usually colored by the beliefs and values that I hold. This is the way they are. This is how they behave. This is the way these things always happen. That's my perception. And a lot of it is based on the beliefs that I have or hold. My attitude, given a situation, I have a certain perspective on it. And how often we look at the jug, the experience of, or the analogy of the jug, is it half full or half empty? And with that attitude, there's the experience of feeling, if I feel it's half empty, then, I have the associated thoughts that go with it. Whereas if I feel it's half full and it's something that I have already, then there's associated experience that, well, I'm halfway there to whatever the full experience would be. And when I have this half empty feeling and attitude, then it's like, well, it's a bit draining. It's a bit not quite there. You don't feel up to the game. And so those are the sort of things that actually further trigger the feeling of anger. So where's my attitude? What are the perceptions that I have? And these are the things that then become triggers for my experience of anger. Okay, so maybe we've spoken quite a bit, and I think maybe we can just do one more experience, and then we can just look at the last bit of the experiences. So for a few moments, just become aware of this one thought. I am a being of peace. And just feel this thought radiating from your face towards your body and to the full extent of your mind and body. I am peace. Thank you. Okay, so just a little more, we gotta go. So how does the mind work? Just for us to understand a little bit about the inner workings. So within me is my personality, the conscious life force or spirit. And within that is the area of the conscious mind, which has thoughts, emotions, feelings, desires, my most deepest passions. And so that's called the conscious mind, where I'm actively involved within that process of thinking. And that conscious mind is fed by the subconscious, which is memories, impressions, habits, and habits are things that I do continuously or naturally tend to do. And these have memories and associated impressions within the self. So the subconscious has an influence on the conscious mind. And on the other side is the intellect, where my judgment and discrimination or decision-making power lies. So we have the conscious mind, the subconscious mind on one hand, and the intellect. And so my subconscious continues to feed the conscious mind, meaning whatever is my memories, the old memories, the impressions, the habits, the instincts, things that have been part of my personality, I would say, they feed the conscious mind, and then they do influence the decision-making process that happens. And the link between the decision-making and the subconscious is the thoughts. The thought that helps me to remember. So between my decision is the expression. So once I've made a decision, so let's just say that you've had a thought about traveling somewhere and you wanted to go to the ocean as opposed to go to the mountains. So you made the decision based on, well, it's a great day, it's a beach type day, the sun is out, and I'll have a lot of fun. Then there's the expression, pack the car, get ready to go to the beach, and I drive to the ocean. And when I get to the ocean, it's a wonderful day, the sun is out, the ocean is really wonderful and crystal-like. And as I touch the sand, there's the wonderful experience that, wow, this was a good decision. And so that gets recorded inside the subconscious, meaning that, wow, I chose a good day to go to the beach. And so that memory or impression gets recorded. And later that afternoon, when I get back home, I'm thinking, it was a good day. I'm grateful that I made that decision. And the kids and those that went along had a beautiful time. The water is so wonderful. So it's reinforced. And the next time I'm asked during the same particular time, do you think we should go to the beach? And you'll say, well, yeah, it's the beginning of April. It's usually great weather. I think we should go again to the beach. And so you can see how that process works between my experience on the physical level to the impressions that I created of the experience, whatever is recorded, and how that influences the conscious mind in terms of thoughts and emotions and the decision making. And so this is the cyclic experience that we have in terms of the mind. So how does it help us in transforming anger? So there are certain events that occur in life, and you can release the feelings attached to them so that the events no longer have power to disturb you. So this is very conscious thoughts, looking at a situation, understanding that it has disturbed you, but letting go from those feelings that are attached to what has happened. When I'm able to do that, then that's the start of the process of change. So look at my beliefs. What are my perceptions that are based on my beliefs? And based on the beliefs and attitude, what are the thoughts that I'm creating? So when I can look at all the beliefs that I have, they influence the experience of perceptions and attitude, and that will influence the thoughts. So I can't just say that I'm going to change my thought. I also need to spend time, understand what my beliefs are. So for example, if I feel strongly about something, It's a belief. Whether it's something that everybody is, you could have a belief about, let's just take something like traffic, and your belief is that we shouldn't have vehicles traveling more than 100 kilometers at a maximum. And so my perception is that, well, the lower the speed, the greater the chance of safety and everybody being okay on the road. That filters thoughts in terms of, I won't travel more than 100 kilometers an hour. And so suddenly if I see somebody speeding past me at 150 kilometers an hour, then there's an experience of a particular emotion and feeling. And so it's based on the belief that 100 kilometers is a safety space for myself. And that's the way I live. But if somebody crosses that boundary, then it may cause me to experience a certain emotion. So it's very important to try and understand that when I go deeper through my thoughts, I'm able to understand where they come, or they are anchored in terms of my belief. So it's a good experience really just to look at all the most dominant thoughts that you have in your life, and then ask yourself, well, what's the perception that helps to create this thought? And then what is the belief or value or an experience that actually helps to create that perception? And for yourself, look at this triangle and see how my thoughts are created. So other techniques to help transform my anger: learning to let go, detach, looking at your feelings, thoughts, and just know that they're separate from you. And allow yourself to be separate from them. And when I'm separate from the emotions, then at that point, I can choose better. When I'm consumed by the emotion, then I cannot choose. Then I'm influenced. Allow understanding. And understanding is usually with some knowledge or experience that helps to filter an understanding. So give yourself the chance to look at things from a bigger perspective. A big one when it comes to anger and relationships is forgiving. And forgiving starts with the self. When I'm able to forgive myself, I find it easier to forgive others. So whatever the situation, whatever the circumstances that have prevailed, if I'm not able to forgive, then I'm not able to move on. And I will be stuck. And there will be the feeling of, I can't do anything. So be the one who is doing something in advance for the self. Forgive. Remember, if somebody hurt you, they may have hurt you once, but you are hurting yourself every time you think about it, every time you entrench it in your speech or your action or behavior. And sometimes maybe, you may do something more extreme, like end up in substance abuse and things like that. But it's only at the point that you forgive yourself for whatever it is that you can start to move on. Everybody and everything moves on. You're the only one that may be stuck. So forgive. Learn non-resistance or surrender. So understand when something is a desire and it is only your own desire, meaning that it's not something that's needed, but I want it my way. That is how I'd like it done. When you're not able to let go of that, when especially in relationships and connections with others, then there's going to be constant agitation and rubbing, an experience of this hurt. Learn to surrender. And surrender doesn't mean that you are losing anything. If anything, you are gaining, because you're gaining your own mental, physical, and spiritual strength. Surrender doesn't leave you feeling less than before. It actually means you have more to look forward to. when you let go of the unwanted, it's like really just cleaning out or performing a spring clean of the self. If it's not needed, let go of it. If you in a relationship and there's something that you want very particular, know that it's your own want. If I would want the relationship to prosper and to grow and to feel good about, I sometimes have to let go of my own desire, my own want. You cannot control, but you can relate to each other. So acceptance, loving and willingly, and another very important in terms of transforming anger is to have feelings of compassion and mercy. As much as we may want things to be of a certain quality and a certain standard, but it's feelings of compassion and love that allows nurturing to happen, which allows growth to happen, which allows something new to happen. If I don't prepare the ground with compassion, feelings of mercy or love, it's going to be barren ground, and that's my responsibility. So anger burns everything. When I'm able to influence the ground of my life and relationships with the water of feelings of compassion and love, and one in which they surrender with respect, that becomes ground in which many things can transform. So always look for benefits in the situation. Situations come to teach me about myself and how I can use that situation to develop my character. It's not that it continuously comes because it's actually there to punish me. A situation comes to help you grow. So it's just that I need to look deeper in terms of that part of my character where the strength needs to grow. So look at every situation, every circumstance as an opportunity to grow. And growth happens when I learn about myself, teach myself about myself, maybe sometimes unlearn something, and then to allow myself to grow. So some practical suggestion of something you can do when you look at transforming anger. So when you look at situations of people that trigger your anger, and you may have any number of them, but write that down. So Jack always treats me in a negative way or in a bad way, or they look down on me. Write it down on a piece of paper. And then take that piece of paper and tear it up and put it into the bin and let it go. Or if you decide to burn it, let it go. This whole experience in terms of your mind is allowing you to disempower that personality of that situation from having any influence on you going forward. Remember, when you write something, it's taking it out from inside. When you put it on the outside, you're allowing it to lose its power. So if I decide to tear it up and throw it away, it no longer exists. So this is just a technique to help you so that you can see that I am now not allowing the situation to have any power over myself. So just allow yourself to let go. And so this is just a suggested way to look at something that might be triggering continuously. Write it down and let it go. So just to summarize the session. So we looked at the power of thoughts, perception, beliefs, expectations, looking at personal responsibility and elements of self-esteem, the way I look at myself. we looked at these in terms of the impact on ourselves and the way we see and handle the different anger-provoking situations and circumstances. So very much looking at this energy of thought and how this thought is propelled by the perceptions and beliefs that I hold, and what are the expectations that I have when it comes to others and situations, and looking at how I look at myself very deeply. And so when I'm able to sort of just be able to observe and give myself an understanding of these various areas of myself, I can start to transform and empower myself to overcome those things that are influencing me or triggering me. All right, so we've come to the end of the session, and I think what's very important is just looking at the quality of thoughts that I'm choosing, looking at my perceptions of different things that have an impact on me, and then just some beliefs that I hold. So some work to do over the next week. Just reflect on your thoughts about people and situations that influence your feelings. And when you feel something negative, write something positive about that person or that situation. Start the process of transforming your thoughts about people and situations. And then just remember that your own laboratory and your best teacher. And so when you're able to observe yourself, and you may be able to understand the things that trigger or people use to trigger off anger within you, and find ways to disempower that trigger. So if people know that I am strong about my desire or wanting of something, understand the desire and find a way to let go of it. Otherwise, they're going to continuously use that in triggering you. Allow yourself to grow. Change your want into what are the areas that there's a feeling of need, and focus on those. So these are two things that we can look at in terms of the next week. And you can give yourself the opportunity to sort of look at and see how those things can become areas of influence for you. So I think we come to the end of that session, and I don't know if there's any questions or anything that you want to ask. Maybe I can just go through the chat and just see if there's anything that maybe something to share. Obviously, we're tested by technology today, and obviously that's come as a test in any case. So, okay. So I don't know if there's anything anybody has as a question. I think there's one request, please share the slide before engage with the inner self. Okay, we'll do that. I don't know if anybody's got any questions or any other comments.
Brother, I would like to thank you, and I want to say a big one for me was this thing, I think what one calls righteous anger. Even righteous anger burns one up. That example you made of, I believe, traffic should, cars should drive slower because for safety reasons. And I must say, I do get annoyed because I'm thinking my belief is it's better for people when cars travel slower because most people are killed not because of drunken driving, but because of speeding cars. And I now realize that my perceptions arise out of this belief, and I do get annoyed when people speed. But now it doesn't mean that I have to get annoyed. I have to detach, observe, and the stop, observe, and steer. I have to apply that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sister Carol. You know, the beliefs that I have, I know the quality behind the beliefs, and it's very important for you to really understand where the beliefs come from in terms of your own value system. You don't abandon your beliefs because others don't respect, you know, the similar beliefs, but you don't need to engage in terms of allowing those situations to bring out the negative. So always be the one who's choosing your own quality of thinking, your own quality of feeling, and then you don't meet any accidents in your own mind. You know, they may have sped at a high speed, but you having all the accidents inside. So thank you for that, Sister Carol. I think it's an important thing to realize, and very important to see where it's coming from, so you can really assess for yourself and become you know, respecting to your own beliefs and perceptions. Thanks. Okay, so
Brother, there's some stuff on the chat. There's somebody who wants to see the slide before engaging with the inner self. Please share the slide before engage with inner self. The system missed the content.
All right, will do. So if there's nothing else, then I'm going to just share that slide again. I'm not sure which slide. Oh, there you go. So this was the one before. So how the mind works, looking at conscious mind, decision making, and the subconscious. So where I look at the actions and then transforming anger. I cannot deny the fact that certain events have occurred in my life, but I release the feelings attached to them. And then we went to engage with the inner self. Okay, so thank you for your participation in this session. And just a reminder, the homework is spending time alone reflecting on the self in terms of the feelings, and you know, look at people in terms of their good points, and looking at situation in terms of their good points, and choosing, you know, to keep the right ones in terms of your life. And then you are your laboratory, and you are the one that's going to make the change in your life. I'm going to just use this slide, and we'll just spend a moment or two I'm just going to share a few thoughts, and then Sister Carol, when I'm done there, you can take over with the final. Are there any other chats, points that I haven't looked at? Thank you. Okay, so we're going to close up with just a few thoughts in helping us to look at our inner self, and then Sister Carol, you will take over the final part in terms of projecting. And so thank you to Sister Carol for helping to facilitate in terms of the technical aspects. Thank you to all of you for your participation, and we'll have a few moments of silence and just inner reflection. So just become aware of being seated on your physical seat. Become aware of your breathing. And just feel relaxed. And as my body becomes relaxed, I become aware of the inner ocean of my mind. And on the screen of this ocean, on the surface of this ocean, I just choose inner joy. A feeling of lightness, a sense of freedom. This is my experience, my feeling. I am joy. And I just let this feeling fill my mind, fill my body, just influence my atmosphere. I am joy. Om Shanti. So once again, thank you. Sister Carol, you can take over.